Chaos TV's live coverage of a brand new day coming at you from the EUWChallenger Series number 13. It's day 2 and we are still in the quarterfinals. Today it's going to be H2 Gaming facing up against Ninja Pandas, which is going to be a really strange one to cast because neither of these teams actually have any tags on. Regardless, I'm Medis, joined by Pulse, and we are on the picks and bans.
Hey, how's it going, Masters? How's it going, viewers? And I agree, when we have these teams who not only don't have tags, but sometimes also have tags from different teams, it gets very, very confusing. And I believe h2k has gone through several name changes. They used to be called X and Nexus, that's what we were referring to them for a while, and then they swapped up to, I think it was KMT, and now it's h2k. So, bit of a head scratcher, as you would like to say, and also very difficult to get into our own heads. But either way, into the Champions Select, Zed and Zach banned out. And, well, for our sake, at least we're not going to get those confused.
Yes, that is very true. We've already got too much confusion on the cards right from the get-go. As you said, yeah, a Nexus turned into X and Nexus turned into KMT and are now known as H2K, which is especially confusing for me because I've cast a lot of FPS games as well, and you had H2K Gaming. So I'm not entirely sure if those are related or not, but regardless, the Shen, Aatrox and Ari bans coming in afterwards. So nothing really jumping out at me from these bans, Pulse, fairly standard.
Yeah, nothing really surprising, and I'm just looking at chat and everyone's just screaming out the names of the players. And Kobe, originally when you said it over TeamSpeak, because I wasn't in the lobby at the time, I was like, Kobe, you mean the American caster Kobe? That would be very strange, and you'd also be playing with lag. But, you know, that would have been interesting, but of course it is not him, and we're looking at a completely different team. And so far, I'm still waiting for the picks, well, at least the picks to come out. We've already had the bans.
Yeah, I must admit, I don't know a great deal about Ninja Pandas. They are obviously very strong individual players. We've never seen them playing together before in the EUWChallenger Series, Pulse. So again, it has that similar feel to yesterday when we saw Copenhagen Wolves facing off against Cerberus, where you have that kind of unknown factor in. Now, I do know that Kobe's an AD carry player because I've seen him before, and also checked his summoner profile earlier going into this game with a bit of research. He likes to play a lot of Caitlyn, a lot of Varus, them kind of ADs. So going to be very interesting to see how this one turns out. But first pick is going to be on the side of H2K, and that's going to be N760, which definitely doesn't roll off the tongue, but he's going to have choice of first pick, has 10 seconds to do so, and isn't even hovering over anything just yet, if I can get my words out.
Yeah, N760 has changed his name so many times. I think his last one was maybe LOL's Dead Play Dota, or it was LOL Pro, one of those. Back in the day, he wasn't the guy who was called Dota Pro. That was actually Cretan, I think. So very similar names, and again, he's changed up. His original name was 760, so he's going back to basics, back to where he originally started. And when they were, I think they were called Crisis Gospodarsi, if I'm pronouncing that right, when they were an entirely Polish lineup, and he was 760 back then.
Yeah, absolutely, I remember as well. But as you say, it's one of the negative parts about the Challenger scene right now, at least from my perspective, is there's so many name changes and so many team hopping kind of things going about. It's very difficult for us to casters to keep on top of, because even though a team may be very much together now, we've seen time and time again, Pulse, that fast forward a couple days and suddenly they're in completely different teams doing their own things. Regardless, Vi's going to be locked in, which is going to make you very happy. Sona and Elise have been picked up for Ninja Pandas, and on the flip side, looks like Overpower is opting for the Ezreal.
I get the feeling we're going to see a lot more of Vi now. People are now realizing she's actually incredibly strong, and in Korea I was watching OGN and one of the players was saying Vi's actually OP right now. She's just incredibly strong as a jungler, and especially with less people using Zac in jungle and using him more top lane, then the changes to his Bloblet. People still, use him in the jungle. He's very, very strong, but it's opening options up, such as Vi, different types of junglers, and they are recognizing she's so good in many different roles, even the same sort of role as Zac, not only in initiation but as a ball carrier. So makes a lot of sense, and as you said, Elise and Sona picked up. Elise very aggressive, likes to start dueling in the jungle, has a very good duelist potential, and Sona as well for the initiation, but not really alluding to any type of team composition just as of yet.
Yeah, we saw the strength of Elise yesterday when Bro was playing her on Tick, Trick and Duck, and even though they lost 2-0, we said it was such a great game to watch, and the 2-0 scoreline really doesn't do them justice. But his at least was everywhere, camping mid, going top and bottom, just making plays here, there and everywhere. So definitely a character to watch out for. As you said yesterday, she brings a lot of kind of unique tools to the arsenal from her team, that she can go counter ganking, she can also do a lot of good invades, and also be very, very active on ganking itself. Kennen has just been locked in, so that's a bit of AoE. Slicing Maelstrom plus Crescendo is going to be fairly nasty to play against. But I was going to ask you this before, Paul. So obviously you do main Vi, you have a lot of experience with this champion. We are used to seeing her played in the jungle role. Do you think she's viable at top? Or is it always a case that whenever she's picked, it's going to be jungle?
Is that a pun there, Metas? Vi stands for viable?
Tiny bit. I was
Excellent.
hoping no one would notice, though.
Outstanding. And you, a man after my own heart. But in the top lane, you'd have to, thinking about it, she has good trading potential, but because a lot of it is burst, she'll be good in trades. It's kind of like the Jace principle, but he also had disengage. What Vi doesn't have is disengage. She goes in with Vault Breaker, and then to get out, she has to walk away. And if you're against a lane opponent like Kennen, then he'll punish you so hard. That's excuse me. That's the problem with melee versus range matchups, especially when they don't have two gap closers or a method of getting away, like a CC, and then you can scoot on out after doing them damage. It's kind of the problem with Fiora, because Fiora initiates with Q, but because her second isn't like on the ground, it's also a targeted ability. You can't really maneuver around them. Fiora actually has many character aspects which are really detrimental, but Vi in the top lane would suffer from difficulties, and if she couldn't completely all in, she has very few methods of harassing without going all in from the get-go.
Yeah, I'm sure the viewers have just noticed there was a remake. Poppy was picked in last, and we have just been informed in the lobby that Poppy is indeed Zyra support. So, sorry about the confusion there, ladies and gents. We will be remaking the lobby once again, but just before that Poppy pick actually came in, it will be a Fizz on top of that. So, some interesting picks coming in here, Pulse. Fizz mid, we've not seen it for a little while, but definitely one of those champions to watch out for. Very much a threat.
Yeah, nice. I like Fizz. Fizz is a very skill-orientated champion in the same way that Lee Sin is also very skill-orientated. He has very good matchups. He is also seen as a counter to many different champions, including Twisted Fate, because he just has the engage, the ability to escape the gold card, and many instant CC abilities. And his E allows so much counterplay. That's one of the reasons why Fizz is so strong, because he can face up against literally anybody and do okay, because he not only does he have the gap closer or disengage, but he also has the ability to juke skill shots, and it's fairly easy to use. There's it's almost instant, and also like Z Ultimate, yes, it makes you invulnerable, but Z Ultimate is not as long as Fizz E, and because E is almost spammable to that sense, it's easier to get that one out, and it's just as responsive, and it doesn't need a target like Zed's Ultimate. So, because of that, he has so much counterplay, there's almost no matchup you could say, oh, that will definitely result in Fizz being shut down.
Alrighty, guys. Well, we do have the 10th player back in the lobby. So they apologise for the wait, and Camis is now asking, can I go? So fingers crossed we're going to be into the second lobby very shortly. Both teams have agreed to start, so should be any second now. While we wait for this, because obviously we're not entirely sure how long it will take, I've just noticed a couple of questions there in the chat, Pulse. This is something we do often when we've got a bit of downtime and a bit of dead air to fill in. Somebody asking, question to the casters, how do you get involved in shoutcasting? So Pulse, from your perspective, you're newer into this than I am, how did you get into shoutcasting?
Okay, so in January of 2014, I would have been shoutcasting for 2 years. Which is a landmark for me, and well, actually in League of Legends, because my first cast was in October of, I want to say 2010. So I've been at it for around 3 or 4 years now. So it's a fairly long time. It takes a long time to get it going. How I got into League of Legends casting was by setting up my own stream, and I settled with maybe 10 viewers for around 6 months before I got picked up by a company. The company folded, and I found myself in Chaos TV. I can't actually remember how I ended up here, but I know you were there on my first day, so can you remember?
Well, you've asked the wrong person for memory, haven't you, really? I have the worst memory in the world. All I can say is I think we were looking for another caster, and you came along. and we decided to trial you and see how it went, and it went fine, and here we are. What I would say in terms of if you want to start casting is to practice a lot. Just to yourself, you can go in with a friend or whatever, just go spectate random games. That's one of the beautiful things now. When we both started casting, there was no spectator mode, so definitely use that to your advantage. Just go in, cast, and cast again, and then when you feel like you're ready, just send in a demo to the likes of Chaos TV or a different company, and they will try and pick it up and have a look at it. Just a quick update on what's happening here. There seems to be some real problems with the lobby and the client crashing, so I'm personally seeing loads of people joining the room and then leaving them, like, constantly, and apparently they may need to remake, so yeah, we are going to have to go through that process, I think, Pulse.
Yeah, it's a new common bug where you can actually see all the people still in the lobby, even if they aren't, and they have actually quit out, and even if the lobby's not there. So it's a very interesting bug, but it's something we have to deal with, and it requires communication to realize that people aren't actually around anymore. So yourself, Metas, I know you're a long-time caster, like you have a lot of experience. I know you had your foundations in FPS games.
Sorry, I was just trying to get into this this lobby right now. One sec, Pulse. I did hear what you said, though.
Yeah, no
Just
problem.
bear with me for one sec. Sorry about this, guys.
Yeah, but I agree with Metas when it comes to trying to get into shoutcasting, because you just have to, well, set your own thing up and just cast. Just look at a random game, cast it. Maybe even when you're looking at LCS, mute the casters, cast the game yourself. How would you go about it? And that'll be another thing I'd say. Like, look at professional streams like Chaos TV or look at LCS and see how the casters do it. And one of the main factors, I would say, is choosing whether you're color or play-by-play. Metas is a play-by-play caster. He handles all the action. I'm kind of a mix between both. I also do the action and I do analysis, but generally casters like to switch to one. For example, Jat is a color caster, or Rivington would be a play-by-play caster.
Yeah, I am in the lobby, and to answer your question, indeed, I started off in play-by-play casting right from the beginning in FPS titles like the Call of Duty series and Counter-Strike series, and I've been with Chaos TV now, oh wow, Bass is probably best to ask, but I would imagine 3 or 4 years, somewhere around that ballpark, so you really do have to practice a lot, guys, and you have to kind of, I would say if you want to go anywhere in casting, then you have to commit to it kind of 100%. There's no half measures with it. But as Paul says, you have to bring your own style. And also, another bit of advice that I would give you is D-Man did a really good YouTube video. If you just search on YouTube, I don't know, D-Man Shoutcaster Guide or something, I'm sure it'll come up. But he gives really good, it's not necessarily the most in-depth guide, but it's the basics, and it's knocking the basics down. So definitely give that a watch if you have any interest in shoutcasting, and follow that guide to the T, and you obviously will be in with a very good chance. But it's just one of those things, Pulse. You got to bring your own style to it. You've got to bring yourself. You've got to bring your personality, and hopefully people like that. Just to give you a quick update, ladies and gents, because I know this is very frustrating. Trust me, it's as frustrating for us as it is for you. We have 5 players in the lobby. All of h2k are in the lobby, and nobody from Ninja Pandas are.
Yeah, honestly, one day, Messers, I think I might, make a video of like that of my own, where I just talk about shoutcasting and my 2 cents on it. I think that'd be very interesting. I know yourself, you've written a sort of guide, like a written guide.
I have, but I would definitely say, like, just being completely honest, D-Man's guide is far better than mine. And I mean, he is at the top of League of Legends casting. Before that, he was a very big caster in the likes of Call of Duty as well. So definitely follow his footsteps, I would say, and where he's going. But yeah, I think you would add a lot of kind of more in detail analysis to the actual thing, Paul. So if you went ahead and wrote something, I think it would definitely be worth your while and worth the viewers' while.
Yeah, well, I am a color caster, so, that kind of goes with the job description of being analytical. But no, Messers is honestly selling himself short. Check out Chaos TV, go on there, onto their website, and try and find out what Messers' kind of opinion is on shoutcasting, because it was really good. When I first started with Chaos TV, I'd read it, and a lot of it resonated with me, and even though I was casting for, like, maybe 6 months at that point, I still could learn a lot from at least another person's perspective, and I think that's very valuable, because casting isn't just about yourself. It's not only about yourself or your co-caster, but kind of like just bringing everyone's thoughts together from the community of casters.
definitely. It's like a team-building exercise, I think. And a cast is only as good as the weakest part, is always the way that I see it. But regardless, Pulse, finally, we're back into the picks and bans, which you've already gone through. So, that being said, because of our amazing memory, I can't actually remember half the champions that were picked. So this is almost going to be like seeing it for the first time again.
Yeah, I can remember Fizz being in there somewhere, and that's about it. I think we had a Sona.
Yeah, we did. But that's it. It's all coming back to me now, mainly because I can see the champions being picked in front of my eyes. It is quite helpful. So on H2k side, you got Fizz, Nasus, Zyra, Ezreal, and finally Vi. I'm surprised you didn't remember Vi. She's not really happy about that, Pulse.
I know, man. I know.
On the side of Ninja Pandas, Elise, Kennen, Vayne, Jarvan, and as you said before, I'm pretty sure the support was Sona when that gets locked in.
I mean, hey, we're seeing Vi pretty much every game now, so, you know, I could just say that it's a normal pick. It's something that you generally expect to see in games, so I'm waiting for the day before we see Vi being banned out, because I know one day it will happen, and I will be a very happy person indeed. One, because, well, not because I won't be seeing her in game, but the fact that she's worthy of a ban because someone will get that good at her. And honestly, in World Finals metas, I am predicting some Vi bans.
It's definitely possible. She's certainly seeing more light of day now than before, if you rewind maybe a month or so ago, or even a few weeks.
Yeah.
But judging from the picks and the summoner spells right now, from the side of Ninja Pandas, it would appear that we're going to have a Jarvan in mid, or potentially Kennen in mid, but I expect Jarvan. But regardless, Elise in the jungle. So quite interesting stuff.
Yeah, it runs along the same sort of principle as Jace mid, and it's that it's kind of like a kill lane in the sense that he performs more of an AD carry, or not AD carry, but more AD assassin role like Talon or Zed. He doesn't have, well, he has decent burst, but he doesn't have a lot of sustain, but that's all you really need. His burst compared to someone like Zed or Talon isn't quite at the same level, but he has way more utility. Flag and drag with knockup, and also Cataclysm, and he still remains relevant. You might see him pick up maybe 2 damage items. What's typical for a bruiser at least is to go for 1 damage item and then the rest tank, but because he's fulfilling the mid lane role, I would expect to see him more go for maybe 2 damage items, then go tanky, and then have Elise perform more of a tank role.
Yeah, definitely it could be a possibility. And that's one we'll keep an eye on, ladies and gents. But for now, I should say, we're going to cut to a quick commercial break. We've got 2 minutes 30 remaining on the delay timer. So to rejoin us will be live for the first game of the day and the first game in this best of 3 between H2k and Ninja Pandas. We'll be right back after this.
Hello and welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to EUS Challenge Series number... I knew it was going to happen. EUS Challenge Series number 13, Day 2. Coming up as the first best of 3 with h2k and Escape the Ninja Pandas. I am Pulse, and I'm joined by Metas, and I hate my producer.
Oh man, I'm so happy I wasn't doing the introduction there, because I would definitely have cracked Pulse. You lasted longer than I expected. But regardless, we are into the first game here on the Rift. And it looks like we have that trench warfare coming out again, with neither team really wanting to go over into no man's land.
You know, the worst thing, Metas, is that none of the audience would have been able to hear what my producer just did. So it just makes me look like a complete idiot. And actually, just typed it in chat if you're interested. But yeah, as you said, trench warfare, no one really going for the invasion. We see 4 men top, however, so Ninja Pandas might go at least for the initiation onto Zaxxas, because they have predicted where he would be. That's a typical place for top laners to kind of stand, just to kind of, well, mitigate or alleviate a potential gank and into the jungle. And they're still staying there. It's just going to be very late indeed. Zaxxas is going to see them head up into the top of his lane, and they can't quite connect the dots. I'm not even sure if they saw him, because he did cut the vision. And in fact, they're still going for the invade, so I don't think they did. But on the flip side, h2k will have realized, and as a result, they are going for the initiation and counter jungle themselves onto that blue buff.
Yeah, I think another large portion of that is that Candy, and they call them Candy Pandas, nice, Ninja Pandas even, had a ward down in the river, so they did see that h2k were going in for the blue steal. So I think it was a case as well, on top of everything else, just being like, okay, you steal our blue, we'll steal yours, both come out even. Regardless though, Pulse, we do have the switch-ups coming about here, so it's going to be Vayne and Sona at top against Nasus, leaving Kennen in a 1 versus 2 against Syra and Ezreal.
Yeah, so in the mid lane is Fizz and Jarvan, and actually the harassment from Jarvan I can see being very strong, purely because of his martial Candace is really, really strong in terms of just like chunking people down. Because it is current health, yes, but even if you pot up, then it's still going to be doing more damage. As a harassment ability every couple seconds until it actually wears off, it's a lot of damage. and his poke early game should be able to surpass Fizz's unless he goes all in, but he has great tools for kind of getting out of dodge when he does actually go in. So we'll see how this matchup works out, not something I've really seen too much of before.
And I like this as well from h2k, where, you know, N760 is of the opinion, okay, well, Nasus isn't having the greatest time at top lane. He needs farm, he needs to be stacking up that Q. And the fact that it's a 1 versus 2 at top lane, I'm not too bothered about him coming and taking my wolves. Meanwhile, mid actually, you got Hammers being very aggressive, and here comes 760 from the side. Elise as well with the Spiderling, repelling on up, doing some damage to 760's fight. But nothing is going to come out there. No summoner spells were burnt in the process either.
Yeah, so right now h2k and in fact both of these teams looking very good. Swapping up, allowing Xaxis to be in the top lane 1 versus 2. And it was, of course, Ninja Pandas who initiated their swap up. Leaving Kennen in the 1 versus 2, and Nasus will then be 2 versus 1. In the top lane, Elise finds himself 760, who will be trading off Don May coming in from the north side. And Vault Breaker doesn't quite go over the wall. Flash is used. Not a flash from Elise, however. Volatile Spiderling chases after, lands a perfect cocoon, judging the place where he would be moving into, and First Blood picked up with the auto attack from the jungler of Elise, and now Xaxis is recalling in the top lane. This is really going to hurt. In fact, he's staying in.
Yes, he is, but he can't be anywhere near that CS right now. With his minions pushing on up, he's going to be denied a bit longer. And actually, Kenitaro is going to top as well after getting that first blood, and I can almost feel the facepalm coming out from 760 as he actually whiffed the Q, was forced to flash through, and Elise chasing afterwards, picking up that first blood. So 3 versus 1 situation, with of course Vi just respawning from the death chamber. There is absolutely nothing Xaxis can do from this position, and Nasus is one of those champions, Pulse. He so badly needs farm.
An interesting point of interest though about Nasus is even in 1 versus 2 he can farm underneath the turret very effectively. It's worth mentioning though the 3 versus 1 push is actually very smart coming in from Ninja Pandas, recognizing that Nasus, to put him in a much worse position, is not to dive him, but just either take his turret or actually just push him away from the minions. So the early game will be really rough for Xaxis. Taking down the tower means he will be able to farm at his tower. Meanwhile, the bottom tower falls in tandem, and Caliber. And in the bot lane, that's really strong in the early game because Dragon becomes an easier objective to take. But I'm really interested in the top lane because Elisa's still applying the pressure, and Vi is still staying around Dragon area. 5 minutes and 30 for the first Dragon. It's very early, he's going to take some huge hits, but Xyrus should be able to tank it up with not only those plants, but with 3 of them they can easily take it. Now Elise backing on off. This is a potential mistake.
Yeah, I feel it was a mistake as well, because they haven't even put any damage down at this tower. Okay, fair enough, they've done like 70 hit points worth of damage, which is really nothing in the grand scheme of things, whereas Dragon has just been picked up from the side of h2k. So, as you even said before, it's really important to take first blood on towers at bot lane, because then it allows you that much easier job of picking up the Dragon afterwards. And that's exactly what h2k did, so they've now just escalated themselves further ahead, about 500 gold, which is still pretty significant when you consider the recipient end of first blood.
Yeah, an early Dragon is really good, not only because it's actually proportionally more in the early game, but also because it's an objective that you'll have the timer over and the opponents of Ninja Pandas will not. Now finding out the Drake has already gone, but not knowing when the Drake is going to be, especially this early on into the game, means they can follow up with another one. When it's into later on into the game, it's not so much of an issue because you'll have more warding coverage, but this time they didn't, so they won't really have that timer or that extra information. So potentially we could see h2k sneaking another one, which would really hurt Ninja Pandas. But at the moment, 1 kill up and 1 Dragon down, not in bad shape.
Yeah, absolutely. Everything being said and done, it's still very close as a matchup here, as is shown in the gold tallies. But let's have a quick look at some of the items being built off. I can see in the corner of my eye though that Elise is starting to make her way down to bot lane, then changing mind, going back towards mid. But how is it looking on CS? Nasus 31 CS compared to Kennen's 19. Jarvan going in again. Playful Trickster was used. Here comes the ultimate as well. We're going to be smashing up with John the Warners. Kami's is in such a bad position, and he's been taken out without even being helped from Elise, who is out of position still. So I feel Pulse, it was a bit too over-aggressive coming in from Jarvan without any help from his jungler.
Yeah, Jarvan is the type of lane where if you pick him, he's a lot like Jace. You expect to win your laning phase, or at least you should try. It's a lot of potential to kind of go to waste with, and also he is kind of like lane orientated. Yes, he'll have decent damage in the mid game and still bring utility into team fights late game, but his early game is so good that that's the reason he's being so aggressive, and it was actually his downfall, his Achilles heel. Perfect cocoon onto overpower as he was traveling through with Urchin Strike, but won't be able to fully all in. Elisa's having a decent early game, but she hasn't actually specced into straight up damage. She's actually gone for a more conservative route of going Spirit Stone into Ruby Crystal. Sometimes you'll see Elisa just go straight into damage, and in fact, it didn't do that this time, so can't actually dual fizz in the mid lane. 760 picking up his own red buff, and well, red on the opposing side of Kenny Taro should be pretty safe.
Yeah, interestingly enough, just having a quick look at Nasus's build order here, going for the Negatron cloak fairly early on, so that's pretty interesting. Not something you see a great deal of, but of course when you are laning against a cannon and you have a jungle Elise against you, two characters that are going to do predominantly magic damage, it does make a lot more sense, Pulse.
Yeah, for sure. So right now, Vi is backing off. I'm actually interested in what she's going to pick up with 1,000 gold. Picking up the actually boots of mobility and sightstone. Sightstone is necessary just for jungle clear, but the boots of mobility is something we typically see on heavy ganking junglers like Lee Sin, especially for the early game. Great mobility, and Vi doesn't necessarily need something like a Ninja Tabai or Merc Treads to really be effective. Merc Treads because she has her Assault and Battery, which mitigates CC anyway, and Ninja Tabai, yes, it's good for like extra defense against AD, which is probably be good against someone like Jarvan when he's in the mid lane, but 760 channeling the ultimate straight into it for the Vault Breaker. Biznal there pops back down with playful Trickster, picks up another kill, and the Vi ganks paying dividends.
Absolutely, Jarvan must be feeling pretty hard done by right about now, but it's such a strong combination of ultimates. Assault and Battery goes in, it's going to lock Jarvan up, and it allows Fizz to land a completely free Chum the Waters. So the amount of burst damage is just astronomical, and there is nothing Jarvan can do. The only half-tanky item is Adoran's Blade, and even then it's only 80 health. So he's still very much squishy and vulnerable to all the damage that Overpower will be putting out. As you can see, top left, Drake is jumping in 1 minute and 40 seconds. So definitely watch out for these two teams getting into position and trying to battle off for that next Dragon Pit action.
Yeah, I'd like to correct myself. I think I said Sightstone, I meant Spirit Stone on Vi, because Sightstone would be a very curious pickup. We have seen it before on a Jarvan actually in the EUWChallenger series, but it was, again, a very curious pickup. In the bot lane, very strong push coming in from Caliber and the limits of Reversal, and it's been a little while before we've actually seen h2k in action, and Limits of Reversal was a very strong bot lane. I think many times we've praised how on point Limits of Reversal is, especially on Zyron, and especially with Grasping Roots.
Yeah, I'm just curious about your thought. In fact, hold that thought, because Camis again has been caught out from Chum the Waters. Here comes Vi from the side. However, this time around, Kenataro is here, misses the cocoon, firing in the Spiderling, and they will manage to hold off this onslaught for now. And that will be Chum the Waters down. However, it doesn't have a massive cooldown with just 80 seconds to go. So that will be up almost in the blink of an eye. Regardless, Tower, Drake, I should say, is up in 40 seconds. And like you were saying before, you're posing the question of, with Ninja Pandas being so far out of position, they probably don't have a completely precise timing on Drake. So this could be interesting to see how they react to this.
I feel like Kenataro's influence on this game hasn't been as much as I kind of expected. After picking up one of the first kills, I think it was actually... Was it First Blood? I can't quite remember.
Yeah, First Blood on
it
fire,
was.
top,
Yeah, it was First Blood, and he didn't really do very much with it, because yes, he went back, yes, he got the Sight Stone, not the Sight Stone, the Spirit Stone. They both have stone in it. Meanwhile, in the mid lane, great ultimate actually follows him over the wall, even without the vision. Kenataro looking for the counter initiate. Jarvan ultimate comes out, and now he's actually locked his ally in with them. 760 jumps over the wall, Vault Breaker. Ezreal ultimate comes through the mid lane, doesn't quite pass through anyone, and now Overpower slowing with the E. Now Caliber comes into the action, doesn't quite pick up the kill. 1-0 trade.
But the important part is they get the pick, and now they're going to try and convert that into a free objective on Drake. And with Elise flashing up red, there is absolutely nothing that Kenataro can do to try and steal away this Drake. It's way too dangerous. So that will be the second consecutive dragon going down. to h2k. When we're talking, we're theory crafting about this, who's going to react first, it simply doesn't matter. If you get a pick in mid, you're going to just take Dragon right afterwards.
Yeah, I'd like to go back to that point on Elise because I think it's very relevant even in this as well. Because her influence on the game has been very small, especially when Vi's been ganking so often, to the point where Elise should be trying to, if not counter jungling, trying to find Vi and counter ganking, or even trying to deal with Vi. Because in the early game, she'll almost 100% win because she has more trading potential. Vi, yes, is strong at burst, but she's better in those gank situations. And because Elise is a strong duelist, she's a good duelist in the jungle, then she should actively be looking to try and damage Vi's jungle, but she's really not. What she's really done is just kind of maybe look for a few ganks here and there, and mostly just farm the jungle. And after picking first blood up, that's one of the most harmful things to an opposing team. If your jungler has first blood, then you can do so much damage. But Kenataro kind of been a bit lackluster thus far.
Yeah, and it really came about where both 760 and Kenataro had the same idea of going into that top tri-bush area to try and, on the side of h2k, to try and get the, well, obviously, you know, 760 was going in to help Zaxus at the top, who was in a 1 versus 2, and at the same time Kenataro was thinking of a tower dive. So got caught well and truly out of position. 760 then whiffed on his Q, his Vault Breaker, forced to flash through, Elise picks up the pieces. But after that, as you say, Pulse, not really had a huge impact. Always seems to have been second to the punch in mid lane. Every time Vi is just there 4 or 5 seconds before Kenataro gets into position.
Yeah, I feel this will really cripple them because they have a very good laning phase to the point where they really should be capitalizing on it. Especially in the top lane with Kennen versus Nasus, I feel the influence from Elise would be really, well, necessary because you have to shut down Nasus. 93 farm at 14 minutes isn't awful, it's not the best, but it should be a lot lower, especially picking up First Blood, especially picking up his turret. And now Kennen is actually the same CS as Nasus. This is really concerning because Nasus, of course, only gets stronger. The early game team is very strong from Ninja Pandas. Yes, they have a very good late game in the form of Vayne. They have very good front line as well in the form of Kennen's ultimate. He can just sit on the AD carry. And also Jarvan, he can be used to split up the team fight and also peel for Vayne. But unless Vayne does really well, that's a lot to pin on one player.
That is very true. You're putting a lot of pressure on the shoulders, a lot of weight on those shoulders to carry. And although Kobe is a very good AD carry, no one's denying that, still there is a lot of threats to negate. You know, Vayne, yes, she has the tumble, yes, she may have the flash up, but still, you're going to have a Fizz jumping on your face, you're going to have a Vi using Assault and Battery, and then an Ezreal around the side. So Vayne is not going to be invulnerable in this game. It's very hard to peel for the likes of a Vi and a Fizz as well. So it's kind of getting towards dangerous territory right now for Ninja Pandas. 760 Volt Breakering away in towards the Wraiths, and will manage to do so. So again, probably just going to be waiting for that next Drake fight.
Yeah, agreed. In any other scenario, if I had seen Kennen and Jarvan, and then like Elise and Vayne, and even Sona, that composition right there is so strong not only for team fighting, but their laning phase and transition. However, because there's so much counterplay from h2k, like I'm looking at not only Zyra for the counter initiate, but also Zaxus, he's going to be incredibly beefy. N760 or N760 will be able to cut through the front line and the back line to get at the right target, which will probably be Vayne. Once she's on there, Fizz can assassinate her. There's so much counterplay from h2k that I'm really quite concerned. And if it's a 5-on-5 straight up brawl and everyone is landing in those ultimates, yes, I can see Ninja Pandas being really strong. But in any other scenario, literally in any other scenario, h2k beats them in picking potential. They beat them in scattered fights.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm just curious right now to see how many stacks Nasus has on his Q. Plus 225, so he is chugging through them at an alarmingly fast rate. The two junglers bumping heads, Kami's and N760. And in fact, not the two junglers, my apologies. Of course, Kami's is the mid laner with Jarvan the fourth. He comes to teleport though on the ward, which will be cancelled off almost instantaneously from Fizz, who is now just occupying the mid lane and getting some farm.
Yeah, so right now, Vi heading on into the top lane, and again, Spirit Fire is a great CSing ability and also counter-pushing ability, which is very difficult to see against that. Ultimate comes out, slicing Maelstrom, in return. Locks one down. 760 dropping incredibly low. Tower shot comes out. Flash comes through. Another flash from Nasus finishes off the kill. 1 assist and 1 kill puts him slightly ahead. Nasus might be able to pick up this turret on the back of that as well, but not ideal.
Not really ideal. I feel that h2k is still going to be biting their lip a tiny bit and like, that did not work out as planned because Vi had tower aggro the entire time. So Fury of the Sands wasn't that important. Jump the Waters goes awry. Here comes Fizz though, trying to engage hard, flagging and dragging from the side is Camis. Here comes Kenataro as well, who will pick up that kill. And finally, Camis gets some revenge after being on the receiving end of a bashing from the jungler and mid laner. And now you can see that Kenataro is starting to push his way down bot lane, but has been spotted by a ward. However, Drake up in about 20 seconds, Vi coming back from spawn, so they may very well try and make a play happen. However, Fizz is going to respawn around the same time that Drake is up. This is going to be close. Yeah,
Jarvan really needed that kill. That's actually going to give him a lot of presence in the next team fight. And we are really looking towards the Dragon, which will, as you said, be in fact, right now. So we'll see which team aggresses onto it. We know the h2k has the timer, and I think Ninja Pandas actually had, well, at least had vision on it, so they'll see it right now. We could see a team fight opening up very shortly. Jarvan at the north side, and also Kennen heading down. Nasus is already there, sending them away. Their players either actually to get a pick onto Dome, immediately taking him down. So much burst damage from this team, and that's why I was saying before, their picking potential is so good. And now it's 4 versus 5 at the in the best case scenario, and it looks like that Ninja Panda is not even going to try and contest it.
Yeah, instead they're opting for their blue. It's kind of like a cut your losses approach. They realise that going in a 4 versus 5 situation is not great, plus the fact that you can see that Andre Dawn right now was around their Wraith camp, so he would not have got into position in time. So it's just a case of, okay, we'll pick up our blue. Yes, we've lost yet another Drake, and it's not looking too good for us, but better than us all going in, all guns blazing, and end up getting aced.
Yeah, meanwhile in the mid lane, Chum the Waters comes across. 760 still laying down the damage. Jarvan actually very tanky, now picking up both the Hexdrinker and the Fade, followed by Merc Tread. Actually very early Merc Treads when you think about it, but Kenataro was there for the counter gank, and actually Jarvan not going for a straight damage build. We have seen Jarvan mid go for a Bloodthirster first, but because he wasn't doing so well, it makes sense to go for a more conservative build. Mid tower being sieged. Kennen, does he have the ultimate? Yes, he does. And now Dome coming from the backside. Huge damage comes out from Fizz, chucking him down to 50% HP. And that's really just a show of force of how good and strong Fizz is in the mid game.
Certainly how strong Lichbane is on Fizz, because finished that one off fairly early, and of course that is going to do so much work considering that Fizz is a melee AP champion. He likes to be up in the grill, doing a lot of damage with Urchin Strike, and just generally being a nuisance with Chum the Water, so Lichbane fits his bill perfectly. Nasus has been allowed to start farming up now. He's starting to get a lead on Kennen, which when you consider the state of play that Xaxis was facing at the beginning of the game is actually a testament to his farming capabilities. He's also on a 2-0 scoreline with a Spirit Visage, recalling with over 1,000 gold. So that is going to be a Glacial Shroud finished off as Vayne will be falling right now. Bot lane, in fact, will he? Because Self has just been hit from the crescendo. Vayne darting backwards and forwards, will be picking up that kill. Beautiful mechanical work, and the support coming in there from Dome.
Yeah, I was just going to say, the mechanics from Kobe were really on point. Zyra is there, and Nasus is heading down. 760 in the mid lane, has a sword and back if he wants it. Uses it in tandem with the ultimate from Overpower. Great juke out of the way with Repel. Nice flag and drag will get him out of dodge. Meanwhile, in the bot lane, Ghost comes down. Actually, trying to do as much damage with Kobe as possible. Already nuking down Zyra. Another juke out of the way from Kobe. He's got the moves and the mechanics. Xaxis finishes him off though with the pole to the face, which is something you can't argue with. In the mid lane, carries it back on off. Top lane, 760 picks up the kill onto Kenataro. And Andre in 2 minds of whether he wants to go for the, well, 1 versus 1 against Vi and thinks better of it.
You can have the slickest moves in the world, but if Nasus with Fury of the Sands, with a Ghost as well as chasing you, you're probably dying. That's just the state of affair, especially Vayne had already popped off the Blade of the Ruined King and the Barrier, just to survive that duel with Selova. So, nice play from Xaxis being in the right place at the right time, picking up that kill, but it's back to 7-5. However, on objectives, you can see right now resides at about a 5, in fact it's 6k gold differential, purely on the basis that's 3 consecutive Drakes to the team of h2k, now going aggressive on Camis behind the tower. There's a playful Trickster and the True Shot Barrage, which actually whiffs away from Selova, so they're not going to pick up the kill on the mid.
I think he might have just been aiming for the minions because he wanted, 1, get the extra attack speed, and 2, clear the minions so he could push the turret. Because by using his ultimate, he gets full stacks on his passive. So honestly, that's probably what he was looking for. But they could have potentially used it onto Kame's, but either way, did not choose to in the end. His flash coming up very shortly will be good for the next team fight when he will initiate it with Cataclysm. Just gives him more tools to kind of get ahead, get in the right position, and in terms of positioning, it is second to none. So right now I'm looking at team fight and recourse and also answer from Ninja Pandas. Their early game hasn't gone that well. They have good team fight and they have good peel for Vayne, but there's so much in response. You have Zaxxas with Wither, so Vayne's going to have to get QSS. There's no other way to look at it. She will need that item because she didn't go cleanse, she went barrier. They also have Vi with the assault and battery. They've got Limits Reversal to pin him down, and they have an assassin of overpower. Essentially, their key to winning the mid and late game has way too many counters on the team of h2k. So they're going to need another threat apart from Vayne. Vayne can be doing, literally she can be 20-0, but it won't be enough to win them the game. They need Kennen also to do well, or Jarvan to be doing well.
Yeah, and I think the problem with Jarvan right now is that he's not really doing enough damage, and he's not tanking enough. So in both of those boxes, they're unticked. And so therefore Camis is not going to have a massive amount of presence in team fights without instantly being dropped down. If Fizz, for example, just focuses him, he's going to fall very quickly, even with the Hex Drinker and the Phage as well. Meanwhile, Ezreal is just free farming at the bot lane. Some ping is going down from both teams around the red buff of Ninja Pandas. But again, we're in that weird stalemate kind of period here, Pulse, where neither team wants to really push forward. It's a case of just split pushing.
Yeah, h2k don't need to, they can just split push, and that's actually quite scary for Ninja Pandas, because what they could do is go for team fight and he might still win, and h2k recognizing this are just like, okay, well we'll just split push and we'll go after small objectives, there's nothing you can do, and even in skirmish scenarios we'll probably still win because we're ahead. So as a result, they really can't do anything, and it means that Ninja Pandas have to wait until h2k are either in the right position or open up something for themselves. And with Dragon spawning in about 25 seconds, I would recommend that they go for that Dragon. They need to go for a team fight, because if they just back off, then we have this classic scenario where they eventually just ground down and they get essentially ground down against the turret, they fall back to their base, and then eventually they'll crack. One of the inhibitor turrets will die. Meanwhile, in the top lane, they're looking for the gank over the Dragon. Zaxxas in a precarious position, Slashing Maelstrom comes out, Tinder gets to condemn, maintaining vision with Kennen, along with Jarvan, and using the ultimate of Cataclysm. Meanwhile, in response, we have the 3-man push from h2k, perfect decision making the top lane kill onto Nasus potentially worthless.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think that, h2k overall will take that. A kill for a tower is worth. Yes, there was some shutdown gold, but it was only 3 kills worth. And plus the fact that's going to enable them with half of their team, in fact, 3/5 of their team at the bot lane, a free Drake once again. I believe that is their 4th consecutive Drake here, Paul. So objective-wise, that is what, an 8-to-1 advantage to h2k if you take the 4-to-1 towers into account as well.
That was not the right call from Ninja Pandas. They got the pick onto Nasus, but apart from that, I really can't see what they were shooting for. It's like, okay, Dragon spawning in 20 seconds, Nasus is pushing top, we can leave Kennen to either duel him or we can gank him and then we can pick up a kill. And they're not looking at the big picture. There's like, okay, we got a kill and now we've lost Drake and now we've lost bottom turret. They've lost too many objectives. Decision making needs to be on point if they're going to make their way not only back into the game, but making their way into team fights and getting into the right position so they can use their composition. Because right now, h2k is reading them like a book. They're just following through with everything that Ninja Pandas does and making it work out for them. Meanwhile, in the top jungle, we find Zaxxas doing so much damage with his Q. That was 1 Q onto Sona. Yes, her health was, her armor, was reduced by Spirit Fire, but that damage from Q.
It was pretty ridiculous, and that is purely on the basis that Zaxxas has been allowed to farm up his Q at top for a long time now. Myra flashing up red, so we are going to have an engage kicking off. Crucial barrage and the waters as well, doing a lot of AoE damage. Now turning on Camis. This is the problem I was saying before. He's not doing enough damage, and he's nowhere near tanky enough to suffice against this lineup. Dometic just goes and sacrifices herself for Kobe. I say herself, of course, playing Sona. Now Kobe is being chased down from 4 angry players. Here comes Overpower with the moves. The Urchin Strike and then Playful Trickster closing the gap, but not quite enough, and Kobe will escape. But again, it's that kind of situation. Yes, you get a kill, but you lose 3 players, and they cannot afford to trade, because that is also going to signify the end of this inhib tower and the inhibitor afterwards.
Yeah, positional error from Kennen right there, because he actually moved himself towards his ally, who was locked on with Chum the Water, so he was knocked back and slowed as well as taking damage, meaning that he couldn't get in, he couldn't get into that claustrophobic environment and use Slicing Maelstrom, and he might have been able to turn it around as a result. Landing Slicing Maelstrom would have hit at least 3 to 4 people and locked at least 2 of them down, meaning that Vayne could have output the damage, but as a result of getting hit by Chum the Waters, which he didn't really need to, they lost the fight straight up. I'm not sure if that was good in the sense that they didn't get completely aced, yes, but they still need to have at least tried for that fight.
Yeah, but I think the problem is, and this is something I said a couple times over the last, well, best of 3s that we casted yesterday, is they can't afford to trade even anymore. Ninja Pandas have to start winning team fights, and they have to win them outright. They're running out of towers, they're running out of time as well, I have to say. When you look at the differential between the items of these 2 teams, it's very one-sided. Look at Fizz's items. Donnie's Hourglass and Lichbane is just quite ridiculous, with 2,000 gold in his back pocket. When you compare that to Jarvan's items, it's just not packing the same punch. Yes, Kenton has got a Donnie's Hourglass. Yes, Vayne's got a Blade of the Ruined King, but they cannot go toe-to-toe with h2k. And if they continue to allow Nasus to push top free farm, he's going to get to that point where he's just doing ridiculous damage as we saw in Sona. They're going to have to start forcing the envelope here, I feel, Pulse. Go big or go home.
Yeah, for sure. It's the next big play, or they lose the game, and they have to start thinking towards the next game. Baron is the next point of contention. They either try and steal it and go for a team fight or just surrender, because that's their only real chance. Because now with their inhibitor turret down and the inhibitor, it means that they can't go fight in their own base. And Vi jumping over the wall, looking for the pick onto 2 of these players. Teleport now coming in from Overpower, looking for disengagement in the jungle, deleting Soda. Cataclysm comes across, filling up the team fight. Good use of Cannon Ultimate to split them up once again, but he just doesn't have the damage. Kobe gets annihilated along with the rest of his team. In fact, he's still alive. He's got the mechanic. We've seen this time and time again, but excessive force to the face picks up the kill, and that is full. Will it be the last kill for the ace from Ezreal? Not quite, but 4-1, and still in very good shape. They should be able to see this with no problems.
It's just one of those cases where you have to say, yes, Vayne, yes, Kobe has ridiculous mechanical skill with the champion, but he's just being mobbed, Pulse. There's so many players alive on near enough full HP. Look at Caliver's HP, look at Nasus, look at Zyra, all of which are very healthy, all of which are attacking Vayne's face, and there's nothing that he can do about it. So that is going to be the second inhib, and at this point, I honestly feel the game is just over. I would love to hype it up, Pulse, but the last few team fights have just been cataclysmically weak from Ninja Pandas.
Agreed. I feel that they now need to look towards the next game. Maybe spend the next couple minutes both thinking about the next game and also seeing how they play in team fights, because that's the only way they can plausibly make something of this game, because it is a best of 3, so they have both the next match and the one after that if it comes to it. But right now, h2k does look way too strong, especially when they now have Baron to go after. Potentially because Baron isn't down, we could see a play coming out from Ninja Pandas if Elise pulls literally the steal of the century, and then they play everything perfect in the next team fight. I cannot see them winning. But for the next game, I feel that they need to both have a change in their team composition and counterpick, because they can't pick a Vayne and allow themselves to get counterpicked, because you had so many counters. Baron falls. This is one of the last nails in the coffin, I feel.
Yeah, just a completely free Baron, and now Ninja Pandas are placing themselves in a really dangerous position. They're effectively giving themselves a free. Yes, Chum the Waters is down, but here comes the Assault Battery from Fight. Quick Silver Sash being popped from Kobe, but he's going to fall instantly, and that, ladies and gents, will be the GG. I cannot see the remaining 4 players holding this one up. In fact, Jarvan could be falling very quickly alongside Kenataro as well. Here comes Overpower, will finish off that kill, and now they're just going to be pushing down these Nexus towers.
Yeah. I would like to see... Okay, so the surrender vote comes in, and that will be h2k picking up the first game of this best of 3 in day 2, the EUWChallenger series number 13. So right now, Ninja Pandas need to start collecting their thoughts, thinking about not only their team composition, but how they want to play the next game, because they had a very weak early game. because they were making up for it in team fight, and they let themselves be counterpicked. They let Vayne be counterpicked, and they couldn't have Ken in a good position because he got shut down. Well, not so much that he got shut down, but he didn't do well enough, and he didn't shut down Nasus. So they'll need a stronger early game, a more decent team fight. Again, they could go for something like a split push composition, but there's nothing wrong with going for a team fight composition. I just feel that they need a better early game because it all snowballed from there.
Yeah, absolutely. I couldn't agree more. And I think they're going to have to maybe pick a few champions they're more comfortable with as well. Or maybe if the lane switch up comes about, just switch it right back again. If you're not comfortable with it, that's fine. Just make sure you play to your strengths. Regardless, ladies and gents, we are going to be going back to a quick pause while we wait for game number 2 and the lobby to come back up. So fingers crossed, will only be a few moments. Until then, we'll see you very shortly.